All right. Welcome back to the Copywriters Podcast with your host, the world's greatest copywriting coach, David Garfinkel. David, how you doing today?
Nathan, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm glad to be back on the show, and I'm excited for this week's episode.
I am too. In fact, I'm thrilled to announce our returning champion, Ted Prodromou. Ted is known as America's leading LinkedIn coach, and he's the best-selling author of The Ultimate Guide to LinkedIn for Business and The Ultimate Guide to Twitter for Business. And we had Ted on the show not too long ago, and with all the changes going on over at LinkedIn, it was time to bring him back. He's founder of Search Marketing Simplified, a social media firm. We'll give you the link a little later. And besides Copywriters Podcast, Ted has also been featured on Entrepreneur.com, the New York Times, CNBC, and Forbes. I don't see any reason to wait a minute longer except to say this: copy is powerful. You're responsible for how you use what you hear on this podcast, and most of the time, common sense is all you need. But if you make extreme claims and if you're writing copy for offers in highly regulated industries like health and finance and business opportunity, you may want to get a legal review after you write and before you start using your copy. My larger clients do this all the time. Ted, welcome, and glad you could come back for another round. Let's start with you telling us what's new on LinkedIn.
Oh gosh, where do we start? Yeah, since Microsoft bought them, actually it was 2016. At the end of 2016, Microsoft bought LinkedIn. That's why I was scratching my head. Why would Microsoft want LinkedIn? But now I see their big plan. They're integrating LinkedIn with Office 365 now.
Uh-huh.
So that's why engagement is up 30 to 40% every quarter. Engagement levels are up on LinkedIn because if I get an email from you and I'm in Outlook, I can hover over your name and your LinkedIn profile snippet pops up.
Wow.
So if I'm going to be on a call with you, I can just say, what's David up to on LinkedIn? And I can say, he hasn't updated his LinkedIn profile in 3 years. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll talk about that later.
But they're really doing a lot to really get you more engaged.
So what are some specific new features, especially for business owners and for copywriters, that we should know about right away?
So video works really well. Short little videos in your timeline. Just, 2 or 3 minute tip, no longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really working well is to add captions to it because everybody's on their phone, they're scrolling through and they see your video. If they start reading what you're talking about, they'll unmute a lot of times and actually listen to you.
Yeah, we do about a 1 minute, 30-second video every week just to promote the Copywriters Podcast. We'll do one for you when this comes out in a few weeks. I think you told me when we were getting ready to do this, there's something you can do or you're going to be able to do with putting video right on your profile page.
Right. So, you could add videos in your featured section, but you have to scroll down pretty far to see that.
Oh, I see.
I track that through Vimeo and I don't see that many views from those. But what's going to happen in any day now, they're rolling this feature out right now. In your banner up above, you're going to be able to have a promotional video for your business or your services.
Oh, wow. That kind of changes the game, doesn't it?
Yeah. So as you're scrolling through, that static banner is now going to be a little video. You're going to pop up and you'll be able to, I'm not sure how long it's going to be. They haven't said. But if you can give a 1 minute pitch about what you do, people are going to keep reading your profile.
What do you mean if somebody's a subscriber to Copywriters Podcast, of course they can give a 1 minute pitch.
Exactly.
Or they better go back to some other earlier episodes to figure out how. But I have faith in our subscribers, our listeners. Yeah. What else is new that would be of interest to? I mean, especially, we have two groups of people who watch this show and listen to this show. One are copywriters, freelance copywriters, and agency types that are direct marketing oriented, and then we have business owners who like copy. So what should they be looking out for on LinkedIn these days?
So there's a feature they came out with 3 or 4 years ago called Pro Finder.
Mm-hmm.
And LinkedIn's just terrible at telling us about these amazing services, because you can write, if you're a copywriter, you can sign up as a copywriter or service provider.
Mm-hmm.
And then every day LinkedIn sends you people, you can go on your profile and say, hey, I'm looking for a copywriter. And then you get to bid on five people get to bid on each project. So say I need a new sales letter for my new book coming out. I can post that as a job, kind of like Fiverr, but it's on ProFinder. And then 5 copywriters can give me, you don't have to give a whole proposal, but you just have to get their attention to get them on the phone. And then you can give a proposal.
Okay. Now, was that a hypothetical, or do you really have a new book coming out?
No, not yet. No.
Okay. That was future pacing. Okay.
It's going to be next year. Yeah.
Well, what is it? Tell us about it.
I'm not sure yet. It's going to be different than LinkedIn.
Okay. Different than LinkedIn, different than Twitter, right?
Right. More of a life story kind of thing as my career, getting to the last quarter of my career here. The 2-minute warnings coming up.
The autumn of your years.
There it is.
And yet you look so young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
camera.
So let's talk about, one of my favorite subjects, results. I mean, what are people doing these days and how are they getting results? And especially since, look, I'm going to be brutally honest here, very uncharacteristic of me. In the past, all of us out in the entrepreneurial world, we were thinking, wow, LinkedIn, that's for, people getting jobs. It's basically an executive recruiter online. What would that have to do with me? But that's not the case anymore, right?
No, it's actually, they wanted to become the largest content publishing platform on the internet, and they're there now. There's tons of content being posted every day on LinkedIn.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. And are people, you coach people, right?
Yep.
So what kind of content strategies can content lead to clients and dollars and checks that clear and don't bounce and stuff like that?
All the time, yeah.
Got any examples you care to share?
So what I like to do, I've been experimenting. So I started writing a daily email a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of, like my morning routine, I just, what I'm reading about or what I'm learning. So I share that. Like yesterday, I shared just a post, a status update, which is like 1,000 characters or so. And I just said, get on a Zoom call with a friend like you and read your LinkedIn profile out loud. Read the headline to them out loud and watch their face, on the recording. How do they react to that headline?
That's interesting.
Because most professional headlines are like your job title. It's like boring.
Right.
So I teach people to write like a sales letter headline or an article headline. Get their attention, make them curious to keep reading your profile.
So stop looking at LinkedIn the old way and start thinking of it as another content/direct marketing platform.
All these direct marketers have brainwashed me over the last 20 years. So I think like a direct marketer instead of a resume writer.
That's right. I met you at John Carlton's mastermind,
right?
Platinum Mastermind with Stan. So sure. Yes.
So the headline is like 99% of your sales letter, right? It's got to, if they don't get your attention, they're never going to read the letter.
That's absolutely right. So give me a case study or an example.
Okay. One person I'm working with is an HR consultant, and she kind of was treading water, getting really frustrated. She was actually ready to close her business a few months ago.
Wow.
And I said, do you have an email list? I'm like, yeah, I haven't emailed them in 3 years. So we wrote an email and you got 34% open rate.
Wow.
And then we updated her LinkedIn profile to make it look like, hey, I'm back, I'm engaged. And a few weeks later, someone reached out to her, a former colleague, that, hey, I need HR help. There's all these new laws coming into effect in January. I need to hire you.
Mm-hmm.
And she got a $60,000 deal from
Wow.
sending one email to her list and updating her LinkedIn profile.
That's pretty amazing. So when you say you're doing daily emails, are those through the email system or are those through LinkedIn, or do you put a link in email to the email, which is on a server somewhere? I mean, how does that work?
So I've just been writing my emails, sending it to my list through ActiveCampaign. And then I'm trying to keep them, I think 1,300 characters is a status update is the maximum length. So it's not an article on LinkedIn. Sometimes I post them as articles, but they seem to have killed those and nobody ever looks at the articles anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just post it as a status update. Sometimes I'll add an image that's related to it. Sometimes I don't add an image. Sometimes I add those hashtags. Sometimes I don't, but it seems like those get the most response right now.
Oh, the hashtags do. Yeah, I've been advised to do that, and I'm too lazy. You know, I'm posting my podcast promo in so many different places. I figure I don't have time for hashtags. But you think it's a good idea, huh?
So remember, about 70% of people are on their mobile phones now on LinkedIn. So you want to get their attention, just like when you write a sales letter, you got to get their attention early or they're going to go away. So when the top of your post, you got to get their attention.
Mm-hmm.
And as they start going, space it out. I do like one sentence per line now. So you don't do the big paragraph of all words. So the standard things you teach, basically, you know, keep the spacing, lots of white space, keep them interested. And what I'll do too, I'll run them through the Hemingway app. I don't know if you use the Hemingway app.
I'm familiar with it. I think I've internalized it.
Yeah. And I write that way now. It's the same thing. It's like, that's too long of a sentence. You want to really, you know, don't use the word that. How many times do you write that in your copy? Like,
oh, I don't use that. No.
Right. Then it cleans out all those extra words. So it's really clear and they just scroll by, and then sometimes I'll put a call to action. Maybe about 50% of the time I'll send them to my website in the comments with a link.
Are you getting clients from these activities?
Oh yeah. My engagement is way up. My email list is growing from this. Posting little short video tips now and then. I got to do more of the videos because they seem to get a lot of traction too.
Yeah. So as we were talking about when we started, it seems like a lot of people have misconceptions about LinkedIn, and, you know, misconceptions lead to mistakes. So what are some things that you see people are doing wrong, and what should they be doing instead?
So since the pandemic started, I spoke in February before the pandemic hit, and there was like 2.3 million coaches on LinkedIn. I was at a conference with a lot of coaches. So I showed a screenshot. There's 2.3 million of you out there. How do you stand out?
Mm-hmm.
There's 6 million coaches now.
Holy crap.
And there's 23 million consultants. So, you know, how are you different from them? So their profile really has to reflect that, because there's so many newbies out there. So everything is just so crowded. So it's really about making your profile. How do you work that's differently than the other coaches, or what results do you get? You can share like in your recommendations, get lots of recommendations in there, adds to your credibility.
Okay. That sounds good. So the profile is your anchor, right? That's where everything starts.
So I kind of try to attract people to my profile through the content I post, or content that I engage with. Like if you post an article on there or something, I would read it and I would comment on it and say, you know, actually read the content and make a real comment. And that gets people to come to me to connect, rather than me just inviting 50 random strangers every day to connect.
Well, that seems to be about a mistake in a way. Not that you do that, but that a lot of people don't. They don't read the content. Could you talk about that at all, and what difference that makes, and how you use that, actually paying attention to what other people are saying? I know it's a revolutionary idea, but...
You know Bob Berg.
Oh, yeah. The referral guy.
Yeah. So he started doing these great videos, like 3 to 4 minute videos every day. And he was like, he planned it all out. So each day through the week, he's teaching something, and then he leads to something, a call to action at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started commenting on his videos and making comments, very specific things he said.
Yeah.
To show them I actually watched your video. I didn't just say, nice video, Bob. But he's reached out to me now. We've built a connection, a relationship, just because I was thoughtfully commenting on his videos.
I get hit up a lot where people say, "Hey, David, I'm a coach and you're too. Let's talk and see what we have in common." And I go, "Wake me up when this is over."
They're probably using automated software and scanning for words in your profile, job titles. I get that all the time. Hey, let's connect and do a JV together. Like, I don't know you.
Right.
Why would I want to do a JV with you?
But I mean, I find personally when someone has watched a Copywriters podcast and they speak to a particular point, first of all, I'm open to talking to them. Secondly, I'm happy. It's like, wow, someone's listening.
And if I comment on you post that and I comment, your entire network will see that I commented. So you get to see a lot of second and third level connections that are your network that I can connect with and build relationships with. If they're interested in copywriting, hey, they're following you, so I can connect with those people.
Right. So I think one of the things a lot of people, yours truly included, sometimes don't realize on social media is that all conversations are in public, and that can have both positive and negative consequences. Positive if you're aware of it, negative sometimes if you let something other than your rational brain take over.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where the conversations on LinkedIn are more business related for the most part. And the same person's over on Facebook talking about politics and religion and, starting fights with people.
Politics, religion, and sex, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, Ted, I know you look very young, but you've been around for a while. When we were young lads, those were the three things you weren't supposed to talk about in polite company, right?
Right.
Politics, religion, and gender identity, sex, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And these days you're allowed to, but maybe it's not going to get you very far in business, right?
It does. A lot of times people will call you out. If you post vacation photos on LinkedIn, a lot of times people post that on Facebook and Instagram. That's not appropriate here.
Okay. So there's almost a self-reinforcing culture in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is actually really good.
Okay. So I need to be a little delicate here. Somebody we both know is a very legendary copywriter is not on LinkedIn, and every few months he says, "So what about LinkedIn? How would I start?" And so, what would your advice be to someone, whether they're famous and accomplished or whether they're, just out of school or in their 20s or whatever? I mean, what are some, if you're brand new to it, what are some first steps?
You need to be really clear what your purpose is. I just wrote an email yesterday about that. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for a job or you're in the corporate world, you basically put your resume there. And it's all about you. You're talking about you. It's okay to talk about yourself when you're trying to find a job.
Right.
But if you're a copywriter trying to get clients and all you do is talk about yourself, people are like, who cares? But if you can post content on LinkedIn that people talking about you, then that's credibility. And people say, oh, yeah, I trust David because look at all these people saying great things about him. As opposed to, I am the best, I'm the greatest.
So you're talking about testimonials here?
Testimonials or case studies, but really like LinkedIn recommendations are perfect.
Oh, right. Yeah, I back in the day, I got a lot of them. I've been kind of slack. I probably ought to reach out to every single Copywriters Podcast subscriber and ask them to write a recommendation, right?
Right. Although the best thing you could do is say, write a recommendation. Say, Ted was a great guest on my show, blah, blah, blah. Then I get prompted to write a recommendation for you.
Ah, the old law of reciprocity, huh?
Exactly. It stuff really works. The stuff we learned before the internet existed still works.
Yeah. Okay, good. So finally, as we wrap this thing up, what would you say are the most common problems your clients come to you with, and what do you advise them?
Really, it is standing out from the competition these days because there's so many experts out there, which we know they're pseudo experts. So you really have to have that, how are you different? And that's really about getting people to talk about you and then make your profile like a sales letter. Like I said, the headline is the headline of your article or a book title.
Yeah.
And the about section will be the inside flap of a book, talking about the book, selling you the book, basically. So that's your about section. And then
Okay.
people get to know, like, and trust you, as opposed to you just blasting messages at people, like, robocalling people until someone says yes.
Yeah, I guess that works, but the kind of people that attracts, I've often found, are not the kind of people I want as clients.
They'll be the worst clients because they're desperate usually, and if you robocall for your business, what kind of clients are you going to get?
Nathan, I noticed you've been taking notes like crazy, but do you have any questions for Ted about this?
I have one insight and then one question.
Yeah.
So the way that I use Facebook and LinkedIn is much like you guys said, leaving comments, connecting with people, building relationships with people, when people leave comments on my stuff, going to their profile and looking and seeing if I actually like this person, if I would want to do business with this person. And then I'll create a conversation with them. And then based off of that conversation, I say, hey, it might make sense. Do you think we should get on a call and talk about our businesses, see what works, or see if we've got anything that we could help each other with, or I've got a crazy idea I want to pitch you, or something like that. But only once I've built that relationship, only once I've commented and had some back and forth with people, because like you said, I don't want to get stuck or obligated into a business relationship with somebody, and they've paid me and now I'm stuck working with them and I don't like them, and I should have figured this out before I even started talking to them. For me, that makes perfect sense, but I still see the overwhelming amount of people that pitch me, especially on LinkedIn. Now it's getting out of control. It's just, I just accepted your friend request, and 15 seconds later, there's a copy and pasted robo sent message. And why are people still doing this? It seems like such an archaic way of doing it, an inefficient way of doing it, but it seems like it's the way most people are still doing it. And I was just going to ask what your thoughts on why that's the case.
That's what a lot of my competitors teach. They have software that automates this so they can just queue up messages, search for a certain job title, and blast away. But it doesn't work. You may get an occasional client, but usually they're the worst nightmare client you can get. So if you just think of it as, if you're running ads, you're doing one to many. And in the old days, before the internet, we used to go to BNI meetings and Chamber of Commerce meetings, and we would have one-to-one conversations with people and get to know each other.
Yeah.
If you treat LinkedIn like it's a one-to-one conversation, if you have 2 or 3 conversations a day with people, sometimes they go on for days, back and forth, but you build relationships with people. And then if you're doing a webinar, you post it as a status update. They say, oh, I really like what Ted's up to. I'm doing a lot of LinkedIn lives now, and I'm going to be interviewing David in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
So we'll have a conversation, and then people say, I saw you interview David. He's amazing. And then they'll connect with David.
What Ted is talking about is so common sense, but everybody's doing the opposite. And I don't understand it, but that makes sense that they're just being led astray by people that are teaching the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's almost like one-on-one relationships in front of 600 million other people.
Right. People do business with people. So have a conversation with each person. You got to get on the phone eventually to close the deal. If you're a copywriter, do you need 10 clients a week? No, you want to get 1 or 2 clients a month, maybe. Mm-hmm. So 15 or 20 minutes a day, having little conversations with people and commenting on their posts builds that relationship.
Well, this is a paradigm shift. This is a mind-bending way to look at it. But on the other hand, it's just common sense. But then what do they say about common sense, right? Common sense isn't. Oh, yeah.
So I say, if the crowd is doing one thing, if everybody's doing one way, do it the other way. You're going to get better clients because you're perceived as being different.
So if you guys see how business common sensical Ted is, we put both of his books in the show notes, The Ultimate Guide to LinkedIn for Business and The Ultimate Guide to Twitter for Business. And you can reach out to Ted at yourlinkedincoach.com. And we're going to put that in the show notes too.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Ted, thank you so much for coming on and delivering some not so common sense for the listeners out there, because I see a lot of copywriters going about trying to get clients the wrong way. And this is what makes sense. And it's pretty much the only way that I try to get clients nowadays. So you confirmed my biases. So I appreciate that. And David, thanks for hooking up another awesome interview, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, Ted's great. And, I was going to say, if Ted and I were World Series opponents, it would be called the Golden Gate Bridge Series, because Ted's over the bridge in Marin.
There we go.
Nice. And if you, the listener, want to check out more episodes of the podcast, you can head on over to copywriterspodcast.com. And anything else before we're out of here, David?
No, that's it. Thank you, Ted. Appreciate your coming on.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we will catch you next time.
See you later.